Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the Dakota Nation territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. To introduce everybody, my name is Ron Barrett. I'll be your chairperson this morning. Introducing the panel, to my left is Lynn Nesbitt, and the other panel member is Mr. Stu McPherson, who will appear on the screen shortly. And our secretary is Belen Rojo. And introducing the city assessor is Mr. Stefan, and I'll find his name, Lubenstein.
It's Stephen.
Representing the city assessor from the assessment department. This morning we'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll according to the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested as described in each application, and will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that the assessor or the applicant make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to application from exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, the information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this morning, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicants may have, and then it will be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item of the docket this morning. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. I'll ask our secretary to swear in the assessor. And the first applicant, and you can swear in Mr. Trevor Smith.
Mr. Assessor.
And we'll also be hearing items on the dockets 1, 2, 6, and 7. If you can swear in everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Stephen Lobenstein.
You affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Sorry, did you answer that? We didn't hear you.
Sorry, yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
All right. We will proceed. Mr. Smith, you're representing 165 Cordit Road. So
That's correct.
Mr. Assessor, the floor is yours. You can take us through the property.
Sure. The roll number is 04006343000165 Cordette Road. The roll year is 2022 with a reference date of April 1st, 2018. We have an assessed value of $5,411,000. This is a heavy manufacturing property. It's been built up over a period of years, as you can see. The actual years built range between 1962 and 1998. We have an effective year of 1972. You can also see the wall heights range from 12 feet to 26 feet. And the zoning's M2. We have a land area of 161,839 square feet and a leasable area of 83,049 square feet for a land to plan of 2.06. Sorry there. We'll just, I'm going to scroll down a ways to page 8, and you can get an idea of the location of the property. Sort of near Springfield Road and also Chief Peguis Trail there. And just below that, the map, you can get a view of the exterior of the property from the road to give you an idea. You can see the different wall heights from that picture as well, how it's been built up over the years. An aerial view gives you another representation of the property itself, how it's placed, I guess how it's been built up over the years as well. You can kind of see the different breaks in the buildings, the roof lines. And page 9 as well gives you another representation of that. And then you can see some of the rear views on page 10. So you can see where the loading docks are, where the trucks come in to the side of the property and even to the rear of it as well. And below page 10 gives you the another rear view. So speaking of the different ages and the different roof heights, I'll just go over the years when it was built. This has been built up over, this is 12 different buildings on it. So it's pretty substantial, but it was built, the first one was built in 1962. Then you have 1968, 1973, 1974, 1976, 1981, 1997, 1990, and 1998. So those are the years they were all constructed at, and they were constructed with different square footages and at different wall heights at those times. If you want me to go through the wall heights and the different square footages for each one, I can.
I don't think you have to.
Okay, that's fine, as long as we have an idea that this has been built up over multiple years. So moving forward, so I'm going to move back up to my page 2 then. Now we have an idea of what this property looks like. And the request for information is fine. And also there's no sales history or property leases or subject leases that we have here, but we do have some on the mailer, which I'll get to in a moment. So moving on to my page 3, I have rent comparables. So when you're looking at rent comparables, we're looking for net rents in the market of similar sizes, age, and wall heights to the structure itself for comparable properties. So you can see I have 5 comparable properties. The effective year built of these properties range from 1963 all the way up to 1979. So they're close to the effective age of the subject property. Also, the size of the property or the square footage of the actual leasable area is similar to the property. So they range from a low of 92,94 square feet up to 134,664 square feet. And then we can look at the net rents of these properties. So they range from $4.50 a square foot all the way up to $5.17 a square foot. So these are actual net rents in the market that are being used to support our model rent that we use. So moving down to my page 4, you can actually see the income workup. So the income workup is broken into 2 premises. The first one is the 74,109 square feet at $4.84 a square foot. That represents the vast majority of of the warehouse portion of it. And then we have another one at 8,940 square feet, and that represents on the office portion of the building at $5.13 a square foot. So that gives us a total potential rent of $404,550. We're applying a vacancy loss of 2.5%, expenses of 2%, and an overall capitalization rate of 7%. When we apply the capitalization rate to our net operating income, we get a capitalized value or an estimated value of $5,411,000. So moving to my page 6, you can see we have industrial capitalization rates here at 7% for this building. So industrial is the second chart from the top. It falls between the 20th and the 80th percentile, which means the vast majority of cap rates in the city fall within that area. That would make sense for this type of property. So at 7%, it's pretty accurate and pretty around average for industrial properties. So I'm going to continue on down to my page 11. And this is our capitalization rate evidence and our fresh look here. So our capitalization rate evidence is on page 12 and does the industrial charts at the bottom. You can see the ranges from as low as 4.97% for capitalization rates, and we have as high as 8% in this chart. And these are actual cap rates that are in the market. And then on our page 13, we have our non-recoverable expense sampling. So this is just explaining why we're using 2%. It shows that on average, you can see our chart at the bottom that a lot of the majority of buildings in Winnipeg have a 2% non-recoverable expense. And as I continue through my brief, there's just some external sources I have on my page 16 and 17 and 18 that show cap rates in the industrial market. This is on page 18, range from 6.5 to 7.25. And then of course we have on my page 19, this is the income expense mailer. So this is a tenanted building. They checked off net income. I don't believe this is a net income because as you can see, it averages out to $9.52 and $11.43 for these properties, which seems a little high, I would say, for the size of the building. So I believe those are probably gross rents because as I said before, we have an average rent of $4.87 for the entire building. So I feel that the evidence in front of you that I presented, I feel an assessed value of $5,411 is fair and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just a few quick questions. Looking at your brief here on page number 4, the income workup. So you've got the property broken into 2 sections. One, 74,109 square feet at $484 per square foot, but then a separate rent of $5.13 is applied to the office area. Is that correct?
I believe that's what's happening here. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then just looking at the rental comparables that are provided there. So we have, as you had mentioned, this would be considered a heavy industrial, heavy manufacturing facility.
That's what we have marked as, yeah.
Okay. Just looking at the comparables on the rent comparables on your page number 3, UPS, Gardewine, and RS Distributions would certainly be warehouse facilities, would they not?
Yeah, they'd be close to warehouse facilities for sure. Yeah.
staying with that page, we have two of those properties on very short-term leases. The one at 1720 Dublin for a 1-year lease at $5.50 a square foot, and then 55 Dunlop, again having a 1-year lease for $4.65 a square foot. Would you agree that typically short-term leases such as that tend to drive a higher rental rate due to the short-term nature of the lease?
I don't think I would disagree with that statement, but I mean, in the context of large buildings in Winnipeg, there's not as many leases to pick from. So basically, these are the leases that are available to us. If we were looking at smaller buildings, there'd be a lot more, I guess there'd be more leases in the market to choose from. Here, we don't have a large selection, so we have to look at 1-year leases.
I see. Okay, thank you. And again, just looking at this page, some of these properties have considerably higher ceiling height as well. Is that fair to say?
Well, I mean, I guess I didn't go through every single portion, but yes, there are. The property we're looking at has many different ceiling heights. There are some at 21 feet. There are some at 26 feet. There are some at 20 feet. And again, there are some at 16 feet and 14 feet. So, I mean, yes, this property has varying ceiling heights.
Okay, absolutely. And I totally agree with that statement. So to rephrase, would you agree that the majority of the building that we're looking at would have ceiling heights of between 18 and 21 feet, having reviewed the individual sections?
Yeah, I would say that's fairly accurate. 21 feet, yeah, it's got the 26 feet, it has 12,580 square feet. And then below that, yeah, I would say 18 to 21 feet would be accurate, yeah.
Okay. And then at the very end of your brief, you've got the I&E presented. Was any contact made with the property owner with regard to what was included in the I&E?
No, not to my knowledge. No, this is what I have in front.
Those are all of my questions. Thank you very much.
I thank you. Ms. Nesbitt, questions of the assessor?
I do. So just following up on some of the questions about wall height and your rent comparables, do you have a sense of these comparables of what portion or the majority of the breakdowns of the wall heights in these properties? We know that from your evidence that it applies to the subject property, but what about these ones?
Sure, but similar to the question about leases, there's not a lot of properties of this size that have actual net rents that we can use from the market. So we can't really be as picky when it's coming to various wall heights, but I can tell you that 861 McLeod does have varying wall heights. I would say the rest of the properties probably have one consistent wall height across the board. Aside from the office spaces, but that, those are usually only 10 feet, but they don't take up a lot of the actual leasable area.
So do you know from 861 McLeod what the breakdowns of the wall heights are?
I don't have the breakdowns, no, unfortunately.
Okay. And a couple of the tenants, it was pointed out, are warehouse type properties. Subject is a heavy manufacturing, you said?
Yeah, it would be heavy manufacturing, yeah.
With some warehouse as well?
Yeah, I mean, there would be definitely warehouse portions in heavy manufacturing where they have to load and unload goods and store materials to use to manufacturing. There would definitely be warehousing portions to this building as well.
Okay, so on the rent comparables, can you tell me about the heavy manufacturing component of any of these rent comparables?
Well, 861 is definitely a heavy manufacturing. 861 McLeod would be a heavy manufacturing building. 55 Dunlop would be. And as we pointed out before, the other ones are more distribution warehouses.
Okay. Do you know what portion of those properties are heavy manufacturing versus the warehouse versus the office?
No, I don't have that breakdown.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson?
Yeah, just a little clarification, if you would, please. I didn't see it on the brief, but I think verbally you said the effective age of this building was 1972 is what was assigned to it.
That's correct.
And on that basis, is that these are model-driven valuation? Is that correct?
This is all model driven, yes.
And 1972, where does that fall in your categories for applying the shortfall or cap rate, or is there a break-even point at some point where there's a grouping of categories?
Sure, yeah. There's a grouping of categories. Where that actually falls, I don't have that information with me or off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. And you said there's two premises. I think you said that the larger one was for the warehouse and the smaller one was for the office. But you also said that this was tenanted.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
is it just one tenant in the building?
it states that there's two tenants here: Precious Metal Services, it looks like, and Special Laser Tech. So
Right.
there's two tenants. I'm not too sure how they occupy the building.
Okay, so I guess that cuts off my question. I was going to ask how much of the office each tenant had, how much of the warehouse each tenant had, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure, the breakdown.
I've not inspected the building.
okay. I thank you. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Lubenstein, as Mr. McPherson had mentioned, this is all model generated.
That's correct.
So the standard, I noticed that the office space is like 10%, and that's almost like traditional, is it not?
That's correct. Yeah.
I have no further questions. Mr. Smith, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Mr. Chair, may I ask one follow-up question?
Certainly.
Again, with regard to the rent comparables, 861 McLeod Avenue, the woodland supply and manufacturing. I'm sorry, this occurred to me after my initial questions here. A colleague of mine had been working with that particular owner on potentially doing a sale of the property, and it's my understanding that that property and woodland manufacturing, the tenant are one and the same. It's a family-owned business that also owns the property. Was the city able to have that chat with that particular property owner?
That would be something that's news to me, but it's something that I'll have to follow up on if that's the case.
Sorry for springing it late like this. I didn't intend to do that. I was just looking at the comps, and I recall that particular detail at this point. So sorry for the late notice on that.
It's okay.
Those are all my questions.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
May I ask for a brief recess so I may consult with the secretary, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that needs me to leave the room again.
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. I'm sorry, but we had some technical difficulties. Mr. Smith, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to clear up a few things to start with here with the subject property. The property is owner occupied. I'm not sure why the income and expense form was filled out as it was. The owner of the property is also the owner of the special laser and the other, I guess the other operating company that are shown on the I&E form there as being tenants. They are wholly owned and operated by the same owner of the property. So that's the background with regard to that. So that being said, the rents that they're showing there are internal rents and are not valid as indicators of fair market rents. So just a bit of background there. Let's look at the property itself. I'm just gonna shrink my report down here so I can see it. We are, as mentioned by Mr. Lobenstein there, dealing with a property that was built in stages over time. There are 12 individual portions of the building, and we have a slightly different leasable area than the city does based on the city's internal measurements for each section, as well as some outside documentation we have. So we have 82,317 square feet as the entire area. If you look at my page number 3, it will give you this a little bit of background on that. We have, again, M2 zoning, stated as industrial light manufacturing. It is actually heavy manufacturing. They are metal fabricators. That's what the owners do on site. Property was built in stages between 1962 and 1998. I'll give you a bit more background on that. Sits on 3.72 acres, and this gives you a 2-to-1 land to plan area ratio, or in other words, 50% site coverage, 50.2%. So very high site coverage, very limited on-site exterior storage and or maneuverability on-site, or for that matter, certainly no additional land. Let's look at location of the property to begin with, as this is somewhat critical. If we look at my page number 9, you can see an aerial photo of the site, giving you the boundaries of the site. It's somewhat irregular in shape, and you can see that it consumes a considerable portion of it. In addition to the site coverage being high, there is a naturally vegetated area with a lower lying section and tree cover on the eastern side there that also effectively reduces the usable area of the yard. So that's something to keep in mind as well. To the rear of the site is, pardon me, a main active rail corridor that's pretty much always in use. And the property sits on an unpaved roadway with drainage ditches serving to take water runoff. The location of the property, moving on to page number 10, you can see the location on Cordite. Now Cordite, as you can see, kind of see from the aerials there, it is accessed. You can't actually see terribly well from those photos, but it is accessed from a side, kind of a side access road from the lights that are located to the south on La Jumaudier there, which take you north onto Cordite, and then you hang a right on Cordite, and you can see the location at the bottom of page 10 there. So there's a string of about 3 or 4 properties. The first one is landscaping place, I believe, rock and earth. And we have a couple of smaller industrial properties, one of which I represent. And the one on the far end is 165 Cordite that we're dealing with today. There is no development beyond the subject property on Cordite, and there doesn't appear to be demand for development of this particular area either. Let's move back quickly and look at the photos of the subject property. Beginning on page number 4, we have exteriors, so you can see the exterior, the loading area, and they are basically limited to these 2 loading doors. There's one on the rear for drive-in loading, as you can see on the bottom of, or rather the top of page 5, but it is relatively lightly used. And then we move into the interior, and you can see the nature of the business in terms of it being a metal fabricator. So all the fabrication happens there, as well as on-site storage of any product prior to shipping. In terms of the build out of the property, yes, the amount of the office area, I believe, is correct. If you look at the build out of the office, bottom of page 7, we seem to have duplicated that on page 8. It's serviceable. I think it's indicative of what heavy industrial offices typically are. Worn lino floors, etc. I wish I had a few more photos in here of the lunchroom, etc. But suffice it to say, it's relatively heavily used and not of a separate standard from the rest of the building. So in terms of leasability on the market, obviously the entire building would go as a unit, and there would be no higher value applied to the office area in terms of a rent to be applied to the subject. Let's move quickly to the addenda of my brief. So if we're looking at not the on-page numbers, but the numbers of the of the PDF that I have, it would be page 21. And I guess in your brief, that would also be page 21. So this is a document from Deloitte and Touche from earlier in the decade, outlining the description of the property. It has year constructed for each section, the size of that area, and then the ceiling height. So if you go through this document, you can see that the majority of the building is built before 1976, with wall heights that are typically in the 18 to 21 foot area. So that would be page 21 and 23 that give you that information. There is a section built in 1976 with a 34-foot wall height. This is a relatively small area. It was purpose-built for a prior owner for one particular machine, and represents a very small area of the building. So overall, we're looking at ceiling height for the majority of the building in that 18 to 21 foot range. There's also a document there from a realtor as well that gives you an indication of the size of the property. So I've gone through the city's state online information regarding the size of the building. The 540 square foot basement area that's indicated in the city online information, as well as in this realtor's information, doesn't exist. It's been removed, filled in, and there were some other small differences, which is how we arrive at our actual number of the 82,309, I believe it was, in terms of square footage. So that that is the property that we are looking at. So let's move on to the valuation of it. Quick note on page number 12, obviously we're dealing with a large-scale heavy industrial manufacturing property. I'm not going to run through how these are different from standard warehouses or multi-tenant warehouses of more typical leasable sizes in any detail, but suffice it to say, if you look at the information included on page number 12, it will outline that for you. Properties such as this are usually purpose-built and are designed for the owner themselves, for their particular business. Generally, they have functional obsolescence as they are, as to how they are built for other users in the market. And given their extreme size, often there's a very limited opportunity to lease these on the market, given the lack of tenants of that size, which I believe the city has noted as well. It is difficult to get leases of the true market leases of this size in the marketplace. So our building itself was developed over time in 12 sections. It is certainly got a lot of functional obsolescence to it. Nobody would build this building of this size in this configuration today. They simply work with the property as it stands. They did not, they did not set out to have it developed in that fashion. But it is what it is, and they work with what they have. Let's move on to the valuation itself. As the city noted, it's difficult to have true market leases, but we have presented the ones that we feel are most comparable to the subject on page number 14. And those are the four as shown there. Our lease rates range between $3.15 and $4.50 for sizes ranging between 98,000 square feet up to 175,000 square feet. So there is obviously some differential in terms of size for these properties. The age is shown there, as well as the average wall height. As you can see, the 1150 Fife property and 1450 Mountain have considerably higher wall heights than the subject property, with rents of $4 and $4.50 a square foot. Now, looking at the subject property, we have placed a net rental value for valuation of $4.25 a square foot on the subject, based on this this market survey that we have presented to you. That gives us our potential annual income. Our vacancy that we have applied is 3%, as shown on the chart. This is taken from the well-known Johnson report for the Winnipeg market. The data is there for you. 3% overall industrial vacancy, 5%, 5-year average rather, of 3%. We have deferred to that 3% as our vacancy. With regard to the expense allowance, I think I've had this discussion with all of the panel members recently. So what we have done in our analysis is reinstitute what was formerly allowed by the city of Winnipeg in their valuation, that being a total of 7% for the expense allowance, that being 2% for replacement reserve, and then 5% for what was incorrectly termed a management expense, but was actually in reference to non-recoverables. The information is there for the panel to see, referencing the Appraisal Institute of Canada definition of how to arrive at NOI for tenanted properties, outlining a deduction for operating expenses that are paid by the landlord, that being non-recoverable operating expenses. Those expenses are listed on page number 16. These are standard expenses that all property owners incur in the regular operation of a property. We can run through those if you wish, but I'll leave it there for you. My former workplace, we conducted a study, 3-year study of these non-recoverable expenses using two different categories, one including TI and the other not including TI. So 2016 through 2018 averages property counts between 47 and 53, and we have 3-year averages of 11.5% and 12.7% for these non-recoverable properties that we had full access to the information on. I leave that for the panel to review. Clearly, we believe that the evidence is there to support the reinstitution of this value. In fact, it should be higher than what it initially is, but we're simply asking for the reinstitution of that 5% in addition to the 2%. We've deferred to the $3.75 per square foot shortfall allowance. And we can move on to the capitalization of this net income. So looking at the main market participants, we have presented Colliers and CB Richard Ellis, giving us cap rate ranges of 6.5% to 7.25%, and 6% to 7.25%, respectively, for investment grade industrial assets. Now, subject property is a heavy industrial manufacturer of metal fabrication. This would not fall within any definition of a standard investment grade industrial asset. So you would see a premium to cap rates in the marketplace. We presented our own study of capitalization rates on page number 17 for your consideration. These were all verified arm's length transactions purchased for the in-place income, all relatively recent, and we have cap rates ranging from a low of 6.6% to a high of 8.3%, with the bulk of them falling in that 7 to 7.5% range. Subject property, as we've discussed, has a very high footprint on the land, 50% site coverage, limited loading. It is a heavy industrial property, somewhat lower ceiling height at 18 to 21 feet. And it's located in an area of lower demand on a gravel surface street. Again, a heavy industrial property. So this will fall outside of those standard parameters. So we've applied a cap rate of 7.75%. This gives us our final market value of $3,953,000. And if I can get you quickly to delve into my addenda, I represented one property 2 doors over in the current cycle, 111 Cordite Road, also a heavy manufacturer as well. That particular property was built in 1970, has a far superior land to plan area ratio of just under 7 to 1, better loading, and the decision on that particular property taken by the Board of Revision was to use our net operating income and a cap rate of 7.25%. So again, we would have requested the 5% inclusion in that as well. And the material for that is in the addenda, including our workup for that property. The remainder of the addenda simply refers to other decisions from this cycle on industrial properties where the decisions taken supported both the inclusion of the 5% and cap rates ranging between 7 and 7.75%. That is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, questions? Stephen?
Okay, there you are. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, regarding your page 14, these would be your net rents. It's a few questions. Your 1450 Mountain Avenue, index number 4, You have a start date at 2011 and a net rent of $4. Would that net rent be signed? Would that be signed at I guess the net rent at 2000 during 2011 year? Are you aware that this rent did step up until its final year in 2016?
I did not have future or further information on that particular lease. No, had I had that, I certainly would have included that information.
I looked at the mailers and they stated in their final year in 2016, the rent was $5.25 a square foot. Would you disagree to that or agree to it?
I haven't seen the information, but I'm confident that if you have that to present today, that would be accurate. I would just again note that we're looking at a high ceilinged warehouse facility there in Inkster Park.
Okay. And just in terms of 1093 Sherwin, it's at 175,000 square feet. Would this building have the same utility as our subject property today at, I believe it's 83,000 square feet? So it's far larger than our subject property if you take economies of scale.
Certainly, looking at economies of scale for that particular lease, 175,000 is roughly double of what we're talking about. So that would come into play, and I think that's shown in the lease rate of $3.15 there. Certainly.
Okay.
I would certainly agree with that, and I should have probably discussed that further in my presentation.
Sure. And just on your page 17, your capitalization rates you have here, you've listed 6 of them. 3 of them are multi-tenant and 3 of them are single-tenanted. And we've come to conclusion that you say this is owner-occupied, so it's single-tenanted. Your single-tenanted cap rates are all lower than the cap rate that you've applied to the subject property. Why would that be?
Well, these are all tenanted properties, so they have leases in place, and they are more standard warehouse properties that would be considered investment grade properties in the city. They're not heavy industrial manufacturers such as the subject in non-standard locations.
Do you have any cap rates that are heavy manufacturing?
I'm afraid I don't have that information in front of me today, but I don't believe so. Hutchings may have been a manufacturer.
Okay.
I can't recall.
And just in terms of including all these board orders at the end, would this not be similar to comparing assessments, which we don't allow?
Well, I certainly understand that point, and I'm not in any way meaning to compare assessment to assessment. I'm simply presenting them to the panel for their information, and they obviously have the ability to put whatever weight they may on those. I feel it's simply informative to know what decision was taken on a property 2 doors down with the same agent involved, etc. So
those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rubenstein. Mr. Nesbitt, questions?
No, thank you. I have no questions.
Stu? Mr.
Just a clarification on your cap rate. You're saying that the industry ones range, I guess, from 6% to 7.25, and you say that's for investment grade. And then you've added a premium onto that because you're saying this isn't investment grade. I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but I think that's what you said. So the premium you're putting on is over and above the high end of the range versus the low end of the range. Is that fair to say, or am I misunderstanding what you're saying?
I think that's relatively accurate. It is a non-standard investment property. we're looking at 80,000+ square feet of heavy manufacturing in a non-standard location here with gravel frontage, relatively difficult to access in comparison to more standard located properties in industrial parks. Investors typically aren't looking for, large scale family-owned manufacturing plants such as this as an investment. So there would be a significant premium placed on the cap rate for that. So yes, we are above what is being shown for the cap rate ranges by those participants. And again, that's representing, they're typically basically showing you what cap rates would be for, well-located, multi-tenanted industrial assets in the market.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, just a few questions. You talked about the recoverable expenses. So the city's at 2%. So you're coming in at the 7%, which is the 5% recoverable.
Yes,
Correct.
that's correct.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, that's correct. Sorry, too far back.
All right. So which really, if you look at the expenses, it distorts, the expenses, by about $16,000, which lowers your NOI, okay, considerably. Also, you've done a cap study here, and I don't know why you would do a cap study that you come in for the subject property at 7 3/4. So I don't know why you would do a cap study that wouldn't really support your 7 3/4, other than the argument saying that it's older, etc.
Yeah, that's fair. So with regard to your first point on the operating expenses, the 7%, I guess I would strongly disagree with the comment of it distorting the NOI. It's not a distortion. It's simply a recognition of what these costs are to the owner, and based on the past City of Winnipeg Assessment Department practice, as well as standard appraisal practice as referenced by the Appraisal Institute of Canada, these costs are intended to be reflected in that NOI. So we're not distorting the NOI, we're bringing it to where it should be by reflecting those costs. With regard to the cap rate, I take your point, and I wish that I had some large-scale manufacturers that were tenanted and sold as investment properties to present that would fairly reflect what would support my 7.75%. Unfortunately, as I think both the city and I have referred to, there's very few of those properties out there, so we don't have any actual cap rates of large-scale manufacturers such as this to show you. But I do take your point on the cap rate, though, certainly.
I thank you. Either party wants summation?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
You okay?
No, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. I thank you very kindly for your presentation, and results shortly. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dugald Road, you may come forward here. We'll get you sworn in.
Let's be honest, a little bit out of our wheel also.
Something you've learned a little by sitting here.
We learned something for
All
sure.
right. So you can take your mask off while you're sitting here. Thank you. So we'll have you sworn in.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Cameron Watt.
And you have, sorry, I'll do you next. Do you affirm the evidence you about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And that's watched with 2 teams.
2 teams.
All right, you've heard
Sorry.
sort of,
I have to affirm her too.
I'm sorry.
Madam applicant, please state your full name.
Karen Watts.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. And that's Karen, Karen. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Watt. Welcome. Hopefully you learned a little bit. So we will have the assessor present. You may ask questions of their brief, and then we'll deal with your evidence, okay? So, Mr. Lubenstein, you can take us through the property on 976 Dugald Road whenever you're ready.
The roll number is 0609346991, 976 Dugald Road. We have an assessed value of $802,000. Again, we have this as a heavy manufacturing. We have 2 premises, and the actual year and effective year built are 1977 with a wall height of 14 feet. We have a land area of 23,686 square feet, a gross floor and leasable area of 9,075 square feet for a land to plan of 2.61. So moving on to, we'll move down to my page 8, so we get an idea where it's located on Dugald. It's near Panet Road, and I believe that's Lajamodi as well. You can see from the below on my page 8, you get an exterior front picture of the property. And I guess another representation of it on page 9. And you can see it's in very close proximity to the neighboring property, where at one point, I believe a replot has been redone to basically carve out the section for this property. It was once included in I guess the property beside it. So page 10 will give you a better idea. It was it was once included in sort of the property beside it here. So anyways, you have an idea of what the property looks like. So moving back up to my page 3, these are the lease comparables. So for lease comparables, we're looking at similar leasable area, effective year builds, wall height, and area as well. So we're looking at, we have leasable areas that range from 5,212 square feet up to 12,035 square feet. So they fall within the leasable area range. We have wall heights that range from 13 feet all the way up to 20 feet. And effective years built that range from 1948 all the way up to 1977. And you can see that our leases range from $6.40 a square foot all the way up to $8.81 a square foot. In terms of the in terms of the comparable properties, there's quite a few that are close to the subject property. 21 Keno side, 874 Nairn, well, fairly close. 12 Chester and 171 Cole are in fairly close proximity to the subject property. A few of the other ones I had to extend out a little bit. So Erin, Regent, and Logan are a little further away, but they're similar types of properties due to the age and square footage and wall height. So moving on to my page 4, we can see our income workup. We have it broken down into 2 premises at 6,050 square feet and 3,025 square feet. And we have $6.89 and $7.19. Just give me a moment here, I'll calculate out the average. I don't have it with me. So we have $6.99 a square foot for the average. We're applying a 5% vacancy, 2% expenses, and a 7.15% capitalization rate. We'll apply that to the net operating income at $57,356, and we get our estimated market value rounded at $802,000. So moving to my page 6, as I talked about previously, these are industrial cap rates. This one also falls between the 20th and the 80th percentile at 7.15. So the majority of cap rates for the industrial market fall within this range for the city of Winnipeg. And moving to my page 12, again, as I spoke about before, these are actual cap rates in the market. You can see they range from $4.97, 4.97% up to 8%. Page 19 has the mailer, so it's owner occupied. And you can see it's an office furnishing store that is occupying it. You can see that on page 20. So I feel that the value of $802,000 is fair and equitable and should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor?
Yeah, so one thing I noted, you said that it's a heavy manufacturing. I'm not sure how that fits into how you, because we currently sell office furnishings out of the building. So I'm not sure how that works in regards to assessing.
Sure. This is an internal sort of classification we put on for heavy manufacturing. As I spoke about before, I believe part of your premise used to be connected to the neighboring building there that extended down further. And that neighboring building is considered heavy manufacturing. So I just feel that our puck was not changed to the appropriate puck at the time. But you are still zoned in that area M3 heavy manufacturing. So the zoning hasn't changed though.
So how does that affect the value in regards to, like, again, I'm new to this, so understanding the manufacturing, if it's a manufacturing building or just a building that's a warehouse, how does that affect the value of the property?
Zoning. So there's M2, M1, and M3 zoning. So M2 is general, M1 is light manufacturing, and M3 is more of a heavy manufacturing property. In terms of the zoning is important because it basically says what you can build on the property. So M3 manufacturing allows obviously heavy duty, like dirty manufacturing, where M2 and M1 don't allow that as much. So basically M3 manufacturing is actually a little more sought after because you can do more with the property than you can with M2 or M1. But in this case, it hasn't really affected your value due to the fact that due to the size of your property, it's a smaller property, 9,075 square feet. And so the rent comparables, we have to more look at rent comparables that are of similar size to your property, whether they're M1, M2, or M3.
Okay. And I noted that you had it separated into two separate units in the property with our tenant First Avenue actually occupies the full building. Is that any depth on that?
So if you were to, occupying the whole building, so that's something that we're going to have to combine now. It's not going to really change the rent per square foot very much. As you can see from the rent comparables, we have like 171 Cole Avenue is at 12,000 square feet. It's $7.50. 874 Naren's at close to almost 7,000 square feet at $6.40. So even though we probably will combine it and economies of scale will come into play a bit, it won't change the rent that much.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt, questions?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. McPherson?
Yeah, just some clarification, please. Your overhead view on page 9, is that 9?
Yeah.
So this building is basically cut in half. Is that correct? Like what I'm seeing with the property line, does it go right through a building?
Are you talking about page 10? Sorry, or maybe it's the yellow line going through it.
No, it's a purple line.
A purple line. Well, no, it's not cut in half. The building is well within that purple line.
Okay, what am I looking at here then?
I can lay some context.
At the bottom of the purple line, does that not show a building that's cut in half?
Oh, sorry, the out structure, I see, okay, the outbuilding, not the actual building.
I'm sorry, the outbuilding.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it is cut in half. Again, this line used to extend all the way down to the neighboring property, and even included some of the neighboring property in the original roll number, and then a replot was done. So I don't know why. I guess that outbuilding is there from before. I don't know if it's going to be removed or not, or if they're using it. So I mean, that's
So there's no value placed to that as far as you know?
there's no value placed on that.
Oh, okay, thanks. And this is all model driven, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, it's all model.
So if and when the two premises do get changed to one premise, it will change the overall rate that's applied, correct?
Yeah.
But I think you said it's not going to be substantial, but it is going to lower it, right?
It would lower it slightly, I would say. Yes.
Okay. And the 2% expenses, could you maybe go over that quickly? Why it's 2% expenses for the benefit of the applicant as well?
So we used to put in a 5% management fee to go along with the 2% to create basically a 7% non-recoverable expenses. After we've reviewed properties for this past cycle, and you can see on my page 13 that there's over 29 properties here, and we've reviewed more than that, but this is just a sampling. It shows that our 2% is fair when, as you can see at the bottom, the total median of these properties is 1.06%. So we're now applying 2%, and we've removed the 5% that we used to use.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Your presentation, we're ready for your presentation.
I guess I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background on the property. So the tenant First Avenue office was basically a tenant since the early 90s. That's our shared company. The Manitoba number and First Avenue office are both of our company. So over the years, they've leased different portions of this building over the years, and then a couple of years ago, Dudick and Dudick approached us stating that they wanted to sell the building. So at that time, they kind of disclosed a couple of tax things that they had paid over the years. And so we took that kind of, I guess in 2015, they paid $12,000 change in taxes kind of thing. And this was for a property that was basically twice the size. So now they basically subdivided it. And basically our property now is half of what it used to be. And I guess our question was at the end of the day, now we're paying $18,856 in taxes. Property's half the size and half the amount of buildings are on the property. So that's kind of where we kind of came up to look at where these numbers came from. I understand where they come up with the cap rates and things like that in regards to the square footage and things like that. But again, I guess at the time when we purchased the building, we were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, we'll call it, based on the fact that we had this building for the last almost 30 years, and basically, they basically said you're either buy the building or you're out. So, and they said they had someone else on the chopping block to buy it. So, and we already had the building set up for our purposes over all these years, right? So, I guess that's kind of where we're sitting. You just gotta understand how the taxes are $18,856 for a property that's half the size and half the amount of buildings, basically. And in that drawing there, where you show the purple line going through, that building doesn't exist. That building was taken away. But so that's kind of where we kind of thought we were at. So yeah. Thank you.
Okay, but basically here, we don't have anything to do with property taxes. All we can deal with is the assessment. Okay, but it's got a bearing on the taxes, okay? So basically, the city has come along and said, the value to your building is 802,000. So that is a reflection of the tax rate, for your building and reflected in your property taxes. So, you're here today to say what you think the value should be. So, you can help us by saying what you think the value should be for your property.
I see.
So that's where we're at.
Okay. Yeah, to be honest, it's unfortunate that that's how the taxes are built is off the value of the property. And, in regards to the market values that they're showing on the pages here, I don't know what page it was, but yeah, and everything being based off the cap rate and the size of the building and things like that, and in the current market, I can't say what the building's worth, to be honest.
So your building consists of 9,000 square feet, it's 9,075 square feet?
9,075 square feet, and a third of it is showroom and the rest is warehouse.
Okay. So what do you think the value should be? Help us.
Somewhere 650-ish maybe, 750,000.
All right. But you've never you haven't brought any evidence in regards to, okay. And so you're seeking, for the record, 650. Somewhere in that vicinity. All right. Mr. Lubenstein, any questions of the applicant?
I don't really have any questions, but and I know we don't compare assessments as we brought forward like different taxes of these buildings, but maybe I can just kind of explain why the taxes are different on these buildings that you've brought forward as compared to yours. And I think for most of it just comes down to square footage. We will apply our model rent to the square footage, as I spoke about before, to find our basically our income for the property, and then we apply capitalization rate. So just give me a second here. The properties that you brought forth today to show us, a lot of them are quite a bit smaller than your property, which is probably why they're being assessed less and thus having less taxes. Like a few of them, one of them's at just almost 3,000 square feet. Another one's at 7,000 square feet. You have brought another one in at 3,000 square feet, and your closest one you brought in was, I think, the property that neighbors your property, and we have also applied excess land to it as well. So I mean, and we have a value for that one at 708. Oh, sorry. Almost 800,000. So it's fairly close to the assessed value of your property as well. So I think that's maybe where some of the confusion comes in today in terms of how the taxes are proportioned to the property. So I hope that helps on some level.
Like a little bit, I guess we kind of were a little bit. Well, when we reviewed it in regards to all the different properties, we thought that ours was a lot smaller. All of our legal property, but
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
I was saying that when we kind of did a little bit of research, we thought all the properties around our neighborhood again were quite a bit larger with more buildings on it for a lot less in regards to value based on what you can find. Again, yeah. I guess this is not something we're supposed to be talking about here, if I understand.
A lot of the buildings you brought forth today are the smaller, or other than one at 361 Holden, which is larger, but is also has a higher assessment. But its effective age is quite a bit older than yours at 1965. So the age of the property plays a respect to the model as well.
Understood.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, Mr. McPherson?
Yeah, I just wondered, how long have you owned the property?
Since 2019. December 2019.
2019?
Yeah,
Okay, so that would be post-reference. So my other question would be invalid? Therefore, I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Either party want summation?
No, thank you.
No? Anything further?
No, thank you.
Leave it with us and we'll give you results very shortly.
Okay, thank you very
So
much.
thank you for coming this morning
thank you.
and have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
We're going to take a break.
Okay.
And results coming.
Yeah, around 10.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to take a Thank you. We'll call the meeting back to order. And the next property or the next applicant is Mr. Story. Good morning, Mr. Story.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. We'll have you sworn in or affirmed. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name
Jared Story?
and you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for being patient, Mr. Story.
No problem.
So we're going to go to 675 Plankton Street. Stephen?
Yep.
Whenever you're ready.
Sure. The roll number is 0605140000 675 Plankton Street. The assessed value is $1,827,000. We have the actual years built and effective years built ranging from so the actual years is ranging from 1956 to 1992, and we have an effective year of 1965 for this property. The zoning is M3. The land area is 113,923 square feet, and the leasable area is 26,360 square feet. So again, I'll move down to give you an idea where this property is located on my page 8. You can see it's near Archibald Street and Marion Street. It's kind of considered the Mission Industrial area, I guess you could say. And then there's a view from the exterior of the property. You can see from the road at the bottom of my page 8. And from on my page 9, you can get the overhead view. You can see the excess, or not excess land, just the land in the back that is being utilized by the owner. And you get another view on page 9 as well. There's also a rail track that runs beside the building, although they do not utilize it. And you can get a few more views on my page 10 of the building with the overhead doors at the rear where the loading would be for the subject property. So again, moving to my rent comparables on my page 3, they're on, there's one, a similar one on the same street at 583 Plankton, 1576 Inkster, 344 Oak Point Highway, and 1200 Sargent Avenue. You can see that the leased areas range from 16,156 square feet all the way up to 25,000 and the wall heights range from 10 feet to 26 feet, and the effective years built range from 1958 to 1964, with net rents ranging from $5.50 up to $7. Or $5.50 up to $7.50 a square foot. So these are actual net rents in the market. And these support our value of $5.97 a square foot we're applying to the building. You can see this on my page 4. So we have a leasable area of 26,360 square feet. Applying the $5.97 to get the potential rent of $157,369. And the vacancy of 5%, our expenses of 2%, and overall capitalization rate of 7.75% for a capitalized value of $1,827,000. So the 7.75% cap rate still falls within the 20th to the 80th percentile, as you can see on my page 6. For industrial cap rates in the city of Winnipeg. So this is where the majority of cap rates would fall under within this range. Moving down from my page 6. Our page 11, we have our fresh look. So and again, the capitalization rate evidence on my page 12 shows the range from 4.97 up to 8%. These are actual capitalization rates that are in the market. You can see the sales date is 2017. And then, of course, our non-recoverable expense sampling on page 13. It shows 29 different properties and their median being 1.06% for non-recoverable expenses, which supports our 2% that we've put forward. Page 16, 17, and 18 are some external capitalization rate sources that you can look at. They also support our capitalization rates within our with our 20th to 80th percentile range. And page 19 shows the mailer. So this is an owner-occupied building. So it does not generate a rent. So we would have to go to the market, or we have a model-driven rent, as you know, but we can see from the market that it is supported. And so I feel the value of $1,827,000 is fair and equitable and should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story, questions of the assessor?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I guess first off, Mr. Lobenstein, have you visited this property?
I have not, no.
Okay, but on your evidence, on your form here, it shows 3 buildings, correct?
It does, yeah. So I should break these down for you. We have, so the majority of the building was built in 1956 with 28-foot wall height, and it's got 22,570 square feet. And it's metal construction. Another part of the building in 1956 is 11 feet, so this would be an office portion at 1,554 square feet, and that's considered wood. And then in 1992, they built another, I believe, office section, 1,624 square feet, a 10-foot wall height, and that's also wood construction as well.
Okay, perfect. And that third premise that you mentioned, that's office space that is detached from the main property, correct?
I'm not too sure of that. You're speaking one of these outbuildings here?
It's one of the outbuildings, that's correct. Okay. The square footage is correct. Okay, so would that be typical in a property like this to have the newer office space detached from the main holding?
It's not something that you often see, but you do see a lot of properties that do have outbuildings.
Okay. Now, in terms of the present physical condition of the property, do you have any indication? Are you aware of the present physical condition of the interior of this property?
As I mentioned, I have not.
Okay. Is it fair to say, though, that heavy industrial uses generally cause more wear and tear on the interior of their properties? Is that safe to say versus industrial light manufacturing or storage? perhaps?
I would agree to that, yes.
Okay, perfect. Now there's an age variance on this property from 1956 to 1964. I know that you haven't visited yourself, but do you have any idea what might give rise to an adjustment of just 8 years on the effective age?
An adjustment of just 8 years. I mean, that would just be, adjustment would take place. Oh, well, you know what? Just give me 1 second here. No, the adjustment part would just be for the addition in 1992.
Okay. Okay. Now you did mention that this property abuts a rail line. That's correct. Do you think that would have any potential impact on redevelopment in the future, potentially, or?
For M3 zoning, that would be a benefit, but as I mentioned, that this property itself is not utilizing the rail line, so for a new owner to come in here and utilize it, they would have to change the structure of the building to some degree. So,
okay. Did you suggest that rail line is not active though?
I don't know. I mean, just from looking at the pictures, I can't tell if it's active or not.
Okay, so just for the record, so we're very clear that rail line is used by the Shell petroleum storage facility, which is 164 acres. It's massive. It's right across the street. So just so we're clear on that. Now, knowing that, there's a designated impact site right across the street. It's 164 acres. Do you think that that's a negative influence on our subject, potentially?
Not for M3 zoning. And as you mentioned before, heavy manufacturing. So that's somewhat typical for these types of properties.
Okay. Now, just in terms of the physical characteristics we talked about, there's only 3 loading doors. Do you think that's low for a property of this nature, or do you think that's typical?
No, I wouldn't say that's low for a single tenanted building. No.
Okay. All right. In terms of the rent comparables, Mr. Chair, I have submitted some rebuttal. I can go through that with you if you'd like, or how would you like to handle that rebuttal evidence?
I would sooner do it now.
Now, okay, wonderful. So I've provided the board with my rebuttals to the assessor's rental comps. Please let me know when you're with me on that.
She's gonna check.
It's in the main folder now.
I'm sorry?
In the main folder. If you go back to the folder,
Okay.
the rebuttal's in there. Ignore that first link, Stephen. It's the wrong one, sorry.
Okay.
No. Okay, I've added the rebuttal to the SharePoint folders.
Let me know when you.
Got it, but I don't know.
I'm having trouble accessing it here, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just waiting for it to be opened.
Stephen?
I'm sorry, I still can't access it. So
No. You cannot.
Do you see it in the folder?
I got the email and it's asking me to sign in, and I can't even sign in. So
It would be your computer username.
yeah, I've done that. I'll try again here.
Okay, then I will try to email it to you. One second.
Okay, I got it now. Perfect.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, I have it.
All right, proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. So in terms of the rental comps, I did some research on them. I just want to point out a couple of issues here. Comp number 1 on Plinkett, that is, the tenant is Manitoba Housing. And this is, while there is some storage area for, I believe this is pest control and locksmithing, there is office, higher degree of office in this property. You'll see that the by the city's BA record, that it is fully air conditioned. So I'm going to suggest that this is a superior property with office finishing. It's not, it bears no real resemblance to the to a heavy manufacturing metal fabrication property, though it is in the same general area. It's right down the street. So now in terms of comp number 2, I did recognize that this property has undergone substantial renovation. The property at 2007 was a former a trucking firm, and the present day, and the rent that is being referenced here is for the janitorial supply company on the right-hand side. I've seen the interior of this property. I know that it's been fully, it's been renovated, to say the least, and it is there's a large part of that area that's retail. We looked at the permits from the last 20 years. You can see that all this work has been done. It's in my document. Again, fully air conditioned, does not bear relation to subject. Comp number 3 is a vehicle service garage, which is clearly somewhere in the half retail, half industrial. It is not like our subject either. We can also see that the actual years built are between 64 and 70, and the land to plan, though our land to plan is 4.4 to 1, this is much larger at 7.28 to 1. So again, this is substantially different than our subject. And comp 4, again, a great deal of work has been done here. You can, as evidenced by the permits. So I just wanted to point that out and submit that into evidence. So in terms of the comparables, I don't believe that they're actually comparable to our subject. So that was what I wanted to present on that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, may I continue?
Lubenstein? Any questions, Mr. Lubenstein?
Just, I guess, basically one. So you've said you've only inspected one of these, right?
I did not inspect the property on Inkster for the purpose of this exercise. I've just been in that building. I grew up in that area. I know that property very well. Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't actually inspected any of them. You've just been in one. So you don't really know the quality of these buildings compared to the. Well, you're just making assumptions.
No, I spoke to Manitoba Housing because I wanted to confirm the nature of that building.
Frozen?
Yeah, probably lost signal. Would you like to take a recess for him to come back?
Hello? Mr. Story, are you there?
He's
No, okay.
not even connected to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Take a recess.
Is anyone else having trouble with the Zoom?
I'm fine.
Mr. Marin?
Yes. Oh, there he is. Mr. Story?
Sorry about that, everyone. Was that? Assume that wasn't on my end. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Just everything closed on me. So.
Ms. McPherson, any questions? Where's Stu? No.
Oh, there he is.
Ms. McPherson, any questions in regards to the rebuttal?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Story? I think we're ready for your presentation.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. So again, we are in at 65 Plankett, Mission Industrial. Just pulling my brief up here. As we noted, the building was built between 78 and 97. This is an unpaved site. We have some issues with proper access doors for large delivery vehicles. The site is zoned M3, and we've pointed out here that the wall heights range from 10 feet to 28 feet. And we do note that there's what we'll call a negative influence by way of the rail line abutting this property that's transporting petroleum products from the Shell Canada fuel storage farm, which is adjacent to this property. And we also have a detached office that is effectively an outbuilding on this property that is not typical and would not be seen as a positive in the market from our view. So in terms of the market rents, we have looked, this is an owner-occupied property at the reference date, so we have looked to the market to determine what we believe to be a fair and equitable market rent. Now, the city has applied $5.97 per square foot. We have provided some lease comparables here, and based on what we've deduced with an average of $5.55 and a median of $5.59, we've applied $5.50 per square foot, and that does take into account some of these site-specific issues that we've outlined here today. The vacancy, we've used the 5%. I believe that's not in dispute. Shortfall rate is similarly not disputed at $3.75 per square foot. Now, in terms of the non-recoverables, we do continue to apply an allowance of 7% of effective market income as a reduction of the effective market income in our valuation. And as you know, I think I can go into this in greater detail or summarize. I'm sure you've all heard this a number of times and probably a number of times today. So this allowance, of course, is based on the standard 2% as a structural reserve and 5% as a stabilized allowance for non-recoverable expenses that arise in the competent management and operation of the property. I would refer you to our detailed submission attached to this brief concerning these allowances. We do indicate, I'll just give you the numbers very, very quickly here. We do note that the primary non-recoverable or non-rechargeable costs that are borne by an owner in the competent management of an income-producing property are generally centered around issues such as asset management fees, professional fees, space marketing costs, and tenant inducements. So we've done a study that you've been provided with, and we note that we reviewed operating statements for the years 2015 through 2017 for several properties, with consideration to leasing commissions, professional fees, asset management fees, and advertising and marketing or space marketing costs. So when we exclude the tenant inducements, the average reduction to the effective gross income is 7.42 with a median of 5.75. When we include the tenant inducements, our average is 11.76 with a median of 7.35%. So this is all to say that we fully believe that the previously applied but mislabeled management fee of 5% should be reinstated, and we have used that in our valuation. So I'm happy to speak more about non-recoverables, but that suffice it to say we will be using 7% in our calculations on the properties that we will discuss today, and you have been provided with our study. Now, in terms of the capitalization rate, we're not extremely far away, but we do believe that a capitalization rate of 8% is more indicative of a market view of a property of this nature. We recognize that the model has applied 7.75, but we do believe that this property has some specific issues: the proximity to the rail line, the fact that the newer office building is effectively an outbuilding, and also the heavy industrial use does cause greater wear and tear on the asset, on the physical asset. So with those points taken into consideration, we believe that an 8% cap is reasonable. With all of these factors taken together, we calculate a market value as of the reference date of April 1, 2018 of $1,539,000, and we do respectfully submit that the value ought to be adjusted to $1,539,000. The balance of my brief has some photos of the subject, some interiors. Okay, you can see that outbuilding that we've referenced a number of times here. That is on page 19 of my brief, and you can see the interior as well. And then the balance would be my my lease comps that I've used here. And I think barring any questions, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Lubenstein, questions of Mr. Story?
Yeah, sure. Page 7, your rental comparables here for the market.
Yeah.
Do you feel these rental comparables have the same utility as the subject property, in the sense of, you're high at 53,000 square feet, 45,000 square feet, 40,000 square feet, and then you're low at 4,000 square feet and 9,000 square feet? Do these have the same utility as a building that's 27,000 square feet?
Right. I think that's a fair comment. But what I will say is that we're looking at a snapshot of the universe of industrial rents that are being paid here. So yes, some are smaller, some are larger, and I know that you appreciate the some of the difficulties in finding properties that are exactly comparable. As we've gone through, both of our comp sets, we have different square footages that do range. So in terms of utility, I think that in many cases the utility would be derived from planted building, the zoning, ceiling heights, the quality of the actual assets. So I think these are generally comparable. Yes, and I think we have I think that they're reasonable comparables in order to come to what we'll call a fair market rent.
And have you supplied any? I don't see any land to building ratio, wall height here. It's hard to make that comparison when you haven't supplied any of that information.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't have that on this chart. That's correct. If there's one that you'd like to know about, I do have it in my notes, but you're correct, it has not been submitted. Yeah.
And just just one really stuck out to me was your index number one at 53,000 at 394. It's quite a bit lower than all the other rents that you're showing here today. And I just, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't supply an address, but is that 70 Beijing Avenue by chance?
70 Big Inn, yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
So
that's a packing facility. Yeah.
Well, it's my understanding, we looked into this before a number of times, and that these companies are actually affiliated, the owner and the actual tenant that's in there. I think that might explain why that rent is so low.
I'm not sure. I don't have that in my notes. That I'm not sure of.
All right, those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Nisbet,
No
questions?
questions, no.
Mr. McPherson?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Summary, summarization if you wish, either party?
No, I don't have anything to summarize.
I think we've said it all. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to the last one on the docket, which is 298 Archibald Street. Mr. Liebenstein, whenever you're ready.
Okay, the roll number is 06050586100298 Archibald Street. The assessed value is $1,958,000. We have actual year and effective years built between 1976 and 1996. We have the actual effective year of 1978. That's because it's broken down into three separate buildings. The first one was built in 1976 at 14,592 square feet, 12-foot wall height. The second one was 1980 at 7,468 square feet, and that's 12 feet. And the last one, the third one, was built in 1996 for 2,880 square feet, and that's 11-foot wall height. Moving forward, we have a land area of 36,634 square feet and a leasable area of 27,040 square feet for a land to plan of 1.47. Again, I'll ask you to scroll down to the map, page 8. You can get an idea where it is on Archibald here. It's again near Mission and Dawson Road. And you can see a view of the property on the bottom of page 8. You can see some trucks that are loading in on the side of the building there. Looking further down, you can get the aerial view of the property on my page 9. You can see there's a bunch of rail tracks beside it. Again, they're not, to my knowledge, they're not utilizing these rail tracks. And then again, on page 10, you can see more of an aerial view. At the very bottom, you can see where the loading docks are, and you can see the office building, the office portion in the front. So heading back up to my page 3, you can see some rent comparables. You can see I used, we have them on Pajot again, 583. We have them on 700 Mission, 1450 Wall Street, and 1000 Alexander. I looked for properties of similar ages. So we have 1958, 1973, 1990, and 1981, which kind of corresponds with the different additions to this building. The leasable areas range from 16,800 square feet up to 35,760 square feet for the Mission one. You can see that the net rents range from $5.25 a square foot for the Mission property to $7.24 a square foot. So going forward, our model rent, we applied $6.23 a square foot. Applying that to the leasable area, we get 168,459 square feet. We have a net operating income of 151,000. Sorry, we're applying vacancy, 5% vacancy, 2% expenses, and a net operating income of 151,765 square feet for an overall capitalization rate of 7.75. for an estimated value of $1,958,000. Page 6, our capitalization rate falls between the 20th and the 80th percentile again, so that's where the majority of cap rates fall within the city of Winnipeg in that range. Again, we have our capitalization rate evidence, which I've gone over on page 12, and our non-recoverable expense sampling, which I've gone over on page 13 already in previous hearing. Here. And just going down again, you can see the mailer. It's owner occupied on page 20 and 19. So I feel the value of $1,958,000 is fair and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story, questions?
Yes, thank you. Just as a preliminary matter, Mr. Levinson, you and I had discussed the rental rate. There was a recommendation as part of the BA covering this cycle, and you have agreed that you would honor the $5.50 rent. Is that correct?
So there was a cycle in the BA where I'll just put this forward. The assessor recommended $5.75. For some reason, the board decided on $5.50. I'm not going to argue that. I think that's, I don't disagree to the $5.50 per square foot.
Okay, so just in the interest of narrowing our issues, then we're really only going to be talking about, I guess, the cap rate and the non-recoverables. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Okay. Now, this proposed assessment represents an increase of almost 50% from cycle over cycle. Is there a change in either the tenancy, the quality, or the physical characteristic that would give rise to an increase of 50% in assessed value year over year?
Well, the model did change. We cap rates change. The 2% expenses, market rents go up. It's all based on the model, so it's not unprecedented for that to happen.
Okay, and just from my own knowledge, if there is an increase that is that sizable, 50%, does that is there a flag that comes up in that model to say, hey, this is a huge increase that seems atypical? Does that would the department be alerted to that if there's a change in the system that increases one assessment from,
So, just some history on here. So our original assessment, and you're speaking of the year previous, was $1,647,000. It was then reduced at the board to $1,312,000. So that increase from the $1,312,000 to today is an increase, as you said, but our original assessment was $1.647 million. So that change is due to a board decrease and not necessarily our model.
Okay, that's fine. So just to talk about the actual property, have you visited this property?
I have not, no.
Okay, and you mentioned, I think you said that the rail line that abuts this property is not active. Is that correct?
I didn't say it's not active. I said that the building's not utilizing it.
No, because it's an active rail line, correct?
It's
the building is new. Yes. Okay. I think in my photos you can actually see a train going by. So it's certainly an active rail line.
That's fine. It's active, but that's just that the building's not utilizing it. That's all.
Right. And so being that close to an active rail line, do you think that potentially affects the redevelopment potential of this site? That would be an issue.
I think it's at its highest and best use due to its zoning, so I don't think that would be I don't think this property would get redeveloped.
Okay. Now the wall heights, can we agree that these are reasonably low by today's industrial standards?
Yeah, but I would say wall heights reflect the rent more than anything, and I think we've agreed on the rent and even
Okay. Okay, they affect the rent, but would they also not affect the next potential use, which would speak to the durability of the income or the ability for the income to appreciate, which would be captured in the risk profile of that asset? Would that not be fair to say?
Well, I'll just, we can go to my, sure.
Okay.
Wall height maybe would be low compared to some standards that are being built today, but in terms of Winnipeg, we have a lot of older industrial properties that also have low wall height. So I wouldn't say this is uncommon.
Okay. Now the land to plan at 1.47 to 1, that's extremely low by today's standards, is it not?
Again, not for properties like this that are built more in the interior of the city of Winnipeg. Older properties usually have lower land to plan, and with its M2 zoning as general, the ability, basically they don't have the ability to manufacture anything outdoors. So similar to the property we saw last time, where it had a much higher land to plan ratio. We saw a lot of materials on the outside of the property. They built an office space. They really utilize the land because of M3 zoning. M2 zoning, the land isn't utilized as much, so it makes more economic sense to build your property out to allow for more distribution, more manufacturing. And as we can see, it doesn't seem to be an issue getting trucks in and out, as there's two parked at the bottom of my page 8 there.
Right, and those are very small trucks, though, correct? Those are not.
I mean,
So this.
I would say those are an average size truck. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll save that for my presentation. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson?
Well, no, now that there's an agreement on the rent, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Story, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. As we stated, we are here at 298 Archibald Street. Now, I do note that I have the land to build plan at 1.35. That's an error. It should be 1.47 to 1. Again, we maintain that land to plan is extremely low and renders this property effectively obsolete to many of today's current industrial users. We do also note that there is a close abutment to that active rail line, which would affect potential development. And I believe that this should all be captured in the cap rate of this property. And again, we have very, very low wall height. So just in the interest of narrowing our issues, you've heard my presentation on the non-recoverables. You have the report that we've provided. We do continue to apply a 7% reduction to the effective gross income based on our study. We've agreed that the rent ought to be 5.5%. Vacancy is not in dispute, so effectively we're just talking about the cap rate and the non-recoverables. We believe that a cap rate of 8% is appropriate, and that's largely based on the fact that this is our cap rate study would indicate that our stratification shows that properties that we would not consider investment grade ought to start at a baseline of 8%. So based on the low land plan, based on the very short ceiling heights, and the age and quality of the asset, we're suggesting that an 8% cap rate is appropriate. We're also recognizing that the increasing value from cycle over cycle of 50% is extraordinary, and then there's no basis for that. So with all of our figures taken together, we come to an indicated market value at the reference date of $1,579,000, and we do request the value be amended. In terms of my appendices, we have some photos. Those start on page 23. You see the interior office space. We see the floor where they're working. This is a book binding operation. That's what they do here. We see the interiors. Now, I just want to point your attention to
It's frozen.
Oh.
It's frozen.
Mr. Story, you're frozen again. Maybe there's no power there, is there?
Can you read that?
We just have a very little to go.
Okay.
I want to hear what you wanted to point out.
That's it? Okay,
There it is.
okay.
Oh.
You were frozen.
Sorry
Mr.
about
Story,
that.
you were frozen again, so.
Oh, geez. Well, and we're at the second last page of the brief, so isn't that something? So at any rate, I just wanted to point out that on page 33, you see that second shipping door is effectively the size of a pedestrian door, so it's atypical at best. So again, we do recommend, or we do respectfully submit that the value of this asset be reduced for this 2022 tax year to $1,579,000 based on the evidence that we presented here today. And I'm happy to take your questions.
I thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Lubenstein, questions?
Well, I do have the rebuttal for the income or the non-recoverables, which can be sent out. But I mean, I'm not going to go through it. I think we've all read through it before. And so we're at, I guess just my only question is, so we're at 7.75% for a cap rate, and you've adjusted, you want it to go up to 8%. And I'm not too sure they got, so the reason is basically low wall height. Is that your main reason why?
No, so we've provided our industrial cap rate study covering this assessment cycle, and based on our research, we found that industrial properties that would be deemed non-investment grade ought to be applied a cap rate of 8% at a minimum. The justification for suggesting that this property is not what we would typically call investment grade, the quality of the building, it's rigid steel construction, it's older, it's built in stages. The wall heights are limiting in terms of potential use, in terms of the availability for this asset to appreciate in its rental rates and income. That would disqualify it from, in our mind, from being an investment grade property. The land to building at 1.47 to 1 is extremely low and obsolete for many users in today's market. And so those would be some of the reasons. And the abutment to the rail line is not a positive. It's I can't say for certain, but it would appear that it's legal non-conforming, as the current rail guides would not allow you to build that close to a rail yard. So in terms of any sort of renovation or repositioning of that property, that I think would become complicated by the proximity to that rail line. So with all those factors taken into consideration, I think that 8% at a minimum is a very reasonable cap rate for this property.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
No questions.
Mr. McPherson?
I have nothing, thank you.
Summation, either party?
I have no summation.
All right.